After an incredible marriage fallout, 24 hours later, a secret billionaire's jet surprised her. Sarah stared at the empty chair across the kitchen table, the sunlight pouring through the window casting harsh shadows where Brian should have been. Just 24 hours had passed since the bottom dropped out of her world, and she felt like a ghost haunting her own home. Betrayal washed over her in waves, clawing at her insides as the reality of raising 2 children without her husband seeped in. How could he do this? The memories of their love now felt like a cruel joke, her self-worth reduced to a shambles of confusion and hurt. Brian, the rising star in the legal world, had abandoned them, leaving her alone to shoulder the weight of their world, a world she thought they built together. In the heart of her small Midwestern town, whispers curled through the air. People speculated about the sudden arrival of a sleek private jet at the local airport, an anomaly that drew eyes and raised eyebrows. Sarah could almost feel the town's gaze upon her, judging, speculating. Did they know? Were they scrutinizing every moment of her unraveling? A million thoughts raced through her mind as dread twisted in her gut. What would her colleagues at school think? How could she continue teaching her students when she felt like a shell of her former self? The echoes of laughter from her children faded, replaced by the overwhelming pressure of her new reality. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The jet's owner turned out to be Miles, a reclusive billionaire who once sat in her 3rd grade classroom, a boy whom she pushed to believe in himself when he thought he couldn't. Memories flooded back his thoughtful eyes, the shy smile, the day she caught him drawing instead of working. Now success defined him, and there he was, extending an opportunity that felt almost surreal, as if she was stuck in some strange dream where the laws of her world bent toward the impossible. As she wrestled with the offer to join him on a trip to an educational conference across the country, tension coiled tightly within her. Was it selfish to accept such help? A voice in her head screamed yes, while another whispered of hope, a flicker lighting up her trepidation. Wasn't she deserving of something more than this stagnant pain? She hesitated, grappling with feelings of unworthiness, the weight of every glance, every whispered conversation creating a heavy shroud of doubt. Just stepping onto that jet felt like abandoning her children for a fantasy. Yet, it also shimmered with potential, a chance to rediscover herself amid failure. A chance to redefine her role beyond just being a wife and mother. As they took off and the ground fell away beneath them, a whirlwind of emotions surged. Her heart raced, and anticipation battled with anxiety. What if she was stepping into a new life built on someone else's kindness, a stranger's success? In that foreign expanse, bombarded with possibilities, she could almost taste freedom, yet the fear of judgment gripped her like a vice. What would become of her if she dared to hope? Would those same whispers fill the air when she returned home? As the jet cruised through the clouds, every rising mile carried her further from the safety of her grounds. Could she embrace this chance, or would it shatter everything she held dear? The journey had only just begun, and with every mile, she felt the shadows of her past and the daunting specter of her future close in around her. As the jet ascended into the endless blue, Sarah's heartbeat synced with the rhythmic hum of the engines, each thrum resonating in her chest. This journey, so surreal, felt like an escape, a necessary retreat from the chaos she had left behind. Abruptly, she was thrust into a world populated by wealth and ambition, where she had a front-row seat to the life of a man who had once depended on her encouragement to overcome his own insecurities. Miles sat opposite her, a commanding presence wrapped in tailored sophistication. He exuded confidence that seemed to eclipse even the jet's opulence. Yet, beneath the stark surface, Sarah sensed a kindred spirit. She was an artist unwillingly dropped into an unfamiliar canvas, and it took all her strength not to let fear dictate her brushstrokes. Moments passed in silence, occasionally punctuated by Miles' thoughtful remarks on education and innovation. He spoke with passion and authority, lacing his words with visions of what could be achieved when one refused to settle for mediocrity. Each sentence ignited a flicker of inspiration within Sarah, rekindling dreams she had stifled during the years spent tending to her family. She had dedicated herself to nurturing others but had neglected her own aspirations. Where had that come from? The realization hung heavily in the air between them. The jet began to level out, and the sunlight streaming through the windows felt like a spotlight illuminating a path previously obscured by her self-doubt. Could she still reach for the dreams she once had? She envisioned herself not just as a teacher but as a visionary who fought for her students' futures, holding the potential to create lasting change in their lives. A shudder of excitement coursed through her at the thought, overpowering the lingering anchors of guilt and fear. "Miles," she ventured, her voice tinged with the tremor of vulnerability, "how did you find the courage to chase your dreams? Was there a moment you knew this was what you were meant for?" She needed to understand what fueled his meteoric rise, hoping to snatch a fragment of that bravery for her own. He met her gaze, his expression shifting to one of reflection. "It's easy to become shackled by expectations. There's comfort in the ordinary. The moment I realized that abdicating my own dreams meant resigning to someone else's vision for my life, everything changed. I stopped being afraid of failure and began to embrace it." Her mind raced as his words pierced through her doubts. She wanted to feel that same freedom to relinquish her fear of judgment and reclaim her identity. The tension between ambition and self-perception clashed violently within her, juxtaposing her instinct to please others against the burgeoning desire to acknowledge her own worth. As the conversation deepened, Sarah could sense a shift within herself. Miles' questions prompted her to dissect her feelings. What did she truly desire? A flame flickered in her gut, igniting a resolve she had forgotten she possessed. Maybe this was the moment she needed to steer her life back on course, no longer reliant on the decisions or perceptions of others. The jet's descent began as they neared their destination, the city sprawling below like a treasure map waiting to be explored. Sarah felt as though she teetered on the precipice of transformation, anticipation quickening her breath. Yet, with every heartbeat, her heart whispered an unsettling truth: her return home would demand choices, perhaps difficult ones that could leave her exposed once more. She would have to confront the demons that had festered in the shadows of her everyday existence. As the wheels touched down, the reality of what lay ahead sank in. Each step into this new chapter bore the weight of both promise and uncertainty, and she wondered, was she truly ready to confront what awaited her on solid ground? As the cabin door opened, a stark breeze brushed against her skin, igniting a flicker of courage deep within her. The path stretched ahead, shadowed yet illuminated by the glimmers of her burgeoning ambition. Would she seize this moment of clarity, or would she retreat into the confines of her previous life? The first step had been taken, but every journey must face a turning point. What awaited her on the other side? The moment Sarah stepped onto the tarmac, she felt as though the ground beneath her was not quite solid. The bustling city loomed ahead, a labyrinth of opportunities and challenges. Each brisk breeze carried the scent of possibilities, emboldening her heart while whispering warnings of the shadows she had long avoided. With each step toward the terminal, a sense of urgency ignited her thoughts. Where was she headed now? Miles' presence had stirred something inside her, igniting ambitions buried beneath the layers of responsibilities and expectations. Yet, here in front of her, the reality that awaited felt daunting, a reminder of who she had been versus who she aspired to become. As she navigated through the crowd, the cacophony of voices swirled around her, each one a potential echo of the self-doubts she grappled with. Can I really do this? What if I fail? The questions nipped at her heels, threatening to drag her back into a familiar state of paralysis. The instant she spotted Miles waiting at the exit, her pulse quickened. With his easy smile and confident stance, he appeared completely at home within this whirlwind. As he approached, she couldn't shake the notion that he had carved this world from the same clay as her deepest dreams. She needed to find a way to speak her truth, to forge a path formed not by expectations but by her own aspirations. "Miles," she said hesitantly, her voice drenched in sincerity, "thank you for this opportunity. But I realize now that embracing my dreams won't be easy. How do I begin?" His eyes, filled with understanding, sparked with an energy that seemed to breathe life into her uncertainties. "You've already taken the hardest step by admitting what you want," he replied earnestly. "Now it's about execution, turning that desire into a defined mission. You know what you're passionate about, now it's time to plan how to integrate that into your life, no matter how chaotic." With his words hanging in the air, Sarah felt an invigorating rush overcome her. Miles had illuminated another layer of her evolution. The path ahead wouldn't just be an external quest, but an internal one that demanded careful examination of her values and ambitions. He continued, "You need to face the expectations of your past, those self-imposed limitations that confined you. Acknowledge the fears that surface when you think of pursuing your dreams, and analyze them. Are they truly yours, or are they remnants of a life you've outgrown?" The challenge sent a shiver down her spine, yet each word resonated like a hammer striking steel, forming a new resolve. What expectations had she internalized? How many of them truly represented her values, and how many were merely echoes of others' voices? As they exited the terminal, Sarah knew she was standing at a transformative crossroads. Her heart raced with an intoxicating mix of trepidation and exhilaration. Here, in this vibrant city, she felt the weight of her past lift slightly, granting a glimpse of the vision she longed to grasp. Yet, just as promise unfolded, her phone buzzed with a message, a reminder of the life she'd left behind. It was her family, a group she loved dearly but had submerged herself beneath for far too long. How would they react to this shift? The impending confrontation felt as jarring as it was necessary. Wrestling with the tensions within, Sarah paused, the streets alive with movement around her. Fear tugged at her insides, yet the flickering flame of ambition urged her onward. Would she be bold enough to carve out her future, or would she retreat into the expectations that awaited her back home? Miles turned to her, sensing her internal struggle. Decisions define who we become. You've confronted fear today, will you confront the expectations tomorrow? In that pivotal moment, Sarah realized that liberation lay in how she chose to respond. The pull of her past tangled precariously with the desire to break free. As she looked out over the cityscape, realization dawned. Confronting her truth meant embracing the risk of disappointment, not just from others but from herself, too. Would she choose the familiar comforts of the past, or seize the power of her own dreams? A deep breath filled her lungs, grounding her in the now, as she took stock of what lay ahead. The moment of reckoning was here, a choice had to be made, and the clock was ticking. The journey was just beginning, but the question loomed large: would she emerge as the author of her own story or retreat to the narrative written for her by others? As the sun dipped behind the skyline, painting the sky in hues of orange and violet, Sarah stood at that crossroads, the vibrant city pulsating around her like a heartbeat. Each moment stretched like elastic, as excitement and apprehension strummed through her veins. The message from her family gnawed at her, a reminder that she held a family connection precariously above her new ambitions, like a pendulum swaying between two compelling choices. "I can't afford to hesitate," she murmured, her voice barely audible against the bustling sounds of the city. Miles, ever perceptive, tilted his head, his eyes assessing her newfound determination. He instinctively understood that moving forward didn't merely mean steering her career toward uncharted waters, it also meant reconciling her past with her present. "Let us outline what you want to achieve," he proposed, pulling out his phone, displaying a sleek digital note-taking application. Yet, a sudden sense of hollow uncertainty gripped Sarah. Could she define her aspirations clearly enough to articulate them to Miles? She felt the weight of her uncertainty pressing down on her, threatening to suffocate the nascent flames of ambition he had ignited. Okay, she hesitated, her thoughts racing. She looked out at the vibrant energy of the streets. "I've always wanted to create something meaningful, perhaps an organization that supports fellow women in finding their voices." But how do I even begin to navigate that? Miles leaned in, encouraging her to continue. What does meaningful look like to you? Define it. When you envision success, what do you see? The soft prompting cracked open a forgotten door in her mind. No longer simply a series of vague desires, she began seeing pictures women gathered, sharing stories, uplifting each other. Every image coursed with passion as if her ideas had been lying dormant, waiting for someone to coax them into reality. I want to host workshops, cultivate mentorship, and shift narratives. She exclaimed, her enthusiasm bubbling over. She caught herself smiling at the unexpected clarity she felt. I want to empower women to embrace their truths. I want them to be authors of their stories. Great direction, Miles said, a grin plastered on his face, but let us break it down. What steps align that vision with actionable objectives? You'll need a plan. Conceptualize the workshops, identify your target audience, and leverage your network. The suggestion calmed her fraying nerves. Planning felt productive, a tangible task she could grasp and shape. She pulled out her own phone, capturing key points, the sense of unfolding potential fueling her excitement. I need to connect with local organizations and establish partnerships. I should research what others have done too. As she flicked her fingers over the screen, a current of excitement washed over her. The fear that had threatened to paralyze her began to dissipate in the wake of momentum. Yet amid this thrilling advancement lay the heavy weight of reality, a reality that would demand she address her family and the expectations poised to challenge her autonomy. Miles crossed his arms, observing silently as if he sensed her internal battle brewing. This is a chance for personal rebirth, Sarah. But it will require that you confront your past. How do you foresee that conversation with your family going? The questions muddied the waters again. Images of her family gathering, their reassurances laced with apprehension, began to surface. She could hear their voices, shaped by love but tinted with disbelief. How can you leave everything behind? A question that would undoubtedly echo in various forms. I'll have to be honest. Her assessment landed with a startling clarity, but the fear looping in her mind churned anew. But there's a good chance they won't understand. What if they do? Miles countered, holding her gaze intently. What if this is your invitation to redefine not just your life, but also the narratives they hold? It might surprise you. Sarah took a moment to absorb his words. Could she approach this vulnerability with unflinching honesty? Would doing so fracture their bond? Or could it potentially open the door to a new understanding? As she stood grappling with these emotions, the bustling city remained a vibrant tapestry of unknowns, each thread a vision waiting to be woven. A realization settled within her: liberation often beckoned from the bravest, most daunting decisions. She inhaled deeply, her mind racing with possibilities, risks, growth, reconciliation. What would be the true cost of her courage? But now, with a shaky beginning emerged a burgeoning plan. As they turned to walk deeper into the heart of the city, she felt the spark inside her ignite ever more fiercely. The next confrontation loomed. Was she ready to hold her truth against expectations? A message from her phone vibrated against her thigh, pulling her from her thoughts. It was from her mother, an inquiry about Sarah's return home, a question laced with concern and expectation. A soft dread filled her chest, tempering the lively notions igniting in her mind. What would she say? How far was she willing to push against the currents that had dictated her life thus far? The decision lay ahead, a knife's edge marking the divergence between past expectations and future visions. Would she have the strength to confront this legacy? The horizon beckoned, tantalizing and terrifying all at once. Moments away from the conversation she desperately needed to have, she realized she was on the brink of a revelation that could redefine everything. Would she seize the moment, unveiling her true self, or would she shatter beneath the weight of their expectations? As the city lights flickered to life, merging into a tapestry of golds and blues, Sarah's heart pounded with a mix of dread and anticipation. The text from her mother lingered in her mind like a low hum, urging her to respond, yet each moment spent in indecision felt like an eternity. What once seemed simple, a familial conversation, now loomed as a pivotal confrontation with her own identity. "Are you okay?" Miles asked, his voice a calming presence amongst the chaotic influx of emotions swirling inside her. "I'm just thinking." She forced a breath as they walked. "What if they don't accept my choices? What if I disappoint them?" "Disappointment is only one possibility," he replied thoughtfully. "But so is understanding. You're stepping into your truth. That's powerful. People often fear change but embrace the person you are becoming." His reassurance cut through her self-doubt, igniting a flame of tenacity. "You're right. I can't let past expectations dictate my future. It's my life, after all." But the nagging fear still whispered in her ear, warning her that honesty could fracture the delicate fabric of her relationship with her family. Was she courageous enough to articulate her dreams in words that couldn't be unsaid? As they made their way to a nearby cafe, Sarah's mind began to construct her plans. Would she talk to her parents first or share her dreams with her siblings? Perhaps sorting out the uncertainty with Miles could clarify her thoughts. "What's my first step?" she asked aloud, her newfound resolve solidifying. "Outline your conversation," he suggested. "What do you want to communicate? Why does this matter to you?" Thinking it through, she felt the anxiety start to recede slightly. "I want them to understand that I'm not rejecting them. I'm simply choosing to pursue something that feels true to who I am. I want them to see that the work I plan is about empowering others." "Good. And don't forget your why," he added. "Share what inspired this path. Help them see the vision through your eyes." The idea of crafting her narrative eased the tension in her shoulders. Illumination broke through the clouds of self-doubt as she recalled memories of the women who inspired her, those who had fostered resilience within their own struggles and found their voices. Sarah envisioned a world where she could pass that empowerment along, and suddenly, the outlines of her future blurred with significance. They reached the cafe, the intimate atmosphere inviting her to sink further into reflection. As they settled at a table, Sarah glanced around, observing families, friends, and couples. Each group seemed immersed in their own stories, woven with shared hopes and fears, and she felt her own narrative pulse alongside them. "Do you think I can really change lives?" she asked, her voice breaking the reflective silence. "Absolutely," Miles answered firmly. "You have the passion, the vision. Many just need someone to believe in them. There's a power in shared stories, and you can facilitate that." His faith in her abilities bolstered her own. In that moment, she realized that her journey was not solely about distancing from her past, but rather embracing all that had led her to this decision. Each challenge would be a thread, weaving into the fabric of her new life. Her past, present, and future would contribute to the tapestry she aimed to create. Determined to reclaim her narrative, she pulled out her phone, steeling herself to respond to her mother. Each finger tap felt like a pivotal stroke, a decision to step forward rather than retrogress. The message would express her ambitions, her desire for support, and a request for an open dialogue. But just as she was about to hit send, a familiar face caught her eye. An old friend from her hometown entered the cafe, a flash of recognition sparking an unexpected whirlwind of emotions. Memories of laughter, shared dreams, and the familiar comfort of home flooded her thoughts. Would this encounter alter her course yet again? Would it derail the conversation she had meticulously planned, or could it perhaps reveal a new perspective? Sarah's heart quickened as she weighed the options before her, teetering on the brink of another significant moment. This unexpected reunion beckoned her thoughts, swirling deeper into uncertain waters. Would she allow her past connections to reshape her future, or would she assert her independence amidst familiar faces? As her friend approached, Sarah felt the pulse of every decision she had yet to make echoing through her. The chapters of her life kept turning, but she wasn't merely a bystander, she was ready to write her own story. What would this newfound encounter reveal, and how would it shape her journey of self-discovery? The air was thick with tension, a moment poised between the familiar and the unknown, a horizon widening before her, full of possibilities yet to be unlocked. The joy of recognition quickly turned to uncertainty as Sarah's old friend, Jenna, approached with a bright smile that felt both comforting and constricting. Years apart had not dulled the spark in Jenna's eyes, but for Sarah, the memories tied to that look simultaneously pulled at her heart and reminded her of all that she had attempted to escape. With every step Jenna took towards her, the weight of the decisions yet to unfold intensified. "Sarah. It's been ages." Jenna embraced her, and for a moment, it felt like slipping back into an old, comfortable sweater. But that warmth quickly dissipated as the fears that had clung to Sarah all day surged back. "Hey, Jenna," she replied, forcing a smile as her thoughts raced. Seeing her friend reminded Sarah of who she had been, a person who followed the road most traveled, who hadn't yet discovered her voice. Would Jenna see that in her now? "You look different, in a good way." Jenna's enthusiasm was palpable. "What have you been up to?" In that instant, all of Sarah's plans for the conversation with her family cascaded away, replaced by this unexpected reunion. She craved the honesty of answering Jenna's question, yet the vulnerability felt paralyzing. How could she possibly convey the transformative journey she was on? I'm trying to figure things out for myself." Jenna tilted her head, curiosity etched across her features. "What does that mean? Are you in a new job?" Involuntarily, Sarah glanced to Miles for support. He offered a reassuring smile, urging her silence to shatter. Jenna was standing there, all eagerness and genuine interest, and for the first time in hours, Sarah felt a flicker of clarity. She grasped that this conversation could be an opportunity, a chance to anchor her newfound resolve amidst familiar waters. "I've decided to pursue a path that focuses on helping others," she began, her voice steadier than she had anticipated. "I want to empower people, especially women, to realize their potential." The pause that followed felt heavy, but it was lifted when Jenna's excitement bubbled back up. "That sounds amazing. You've always had a way with words, but I can't imagine you in a typical job anymore. You always aimed for something deeper." Empowered by Jenna's encouragement, Sarah felt a shift, as if her fears no longer shackled her but instead were cradling her aspirations. Yet, a deeper concern lingered. Would Jenna's seeming acceptance translate into her family's response? "But you know how families are," Sarah ventured cautiously. "What if my parents don't support this? What if they think I'm just throwing away everything they worked for?" "Sarah," Jenna insisted, her tone sharpening, "if I've learned anything from my own family, it's that they might surprise you. They love you, right? You need to share with them what drives you, and they might just come around." This was revelation masquerading as wisdom. Sarah's heart raced again, but the fear transformed into determination. Jenna's words mirrored Miles' earlier suggestions, yet in this context, they bore deeper resonance. Suddenly, a new voice chimed in from the cafe counter, breaking the burgeoning intensity of their conversation. An older gentleman, a regular who managed the barista station, leaned over with a warm smile. "Excuse me, ladies, but I couldn't help but overhear a bit of your discussion. Empowerment, you say? Sounds like the world could use more of that." His comment surprised Sarah, igniting a cascade of questions. Who was he? Was this just a friendly interjection, or did it carry more significance? She felt rejuvenated, bolstered by the culminating affirmations of both Jenna and a stranger. "Why not try organizing some workshops?" He continued, "I see many people here growing in their stories, but they often lack direction." The suggestion struck a chord. Could she actually host workshops? The idea was thrilling yet daunting, tethered to the responsibility of guiding others in embracing their own journeys. But deep down, recognition of her ability to be the catalyst for change bubbled up. Perhaps this was the spark she needed to step fully into her power. As she pondered, a question reverberated in her mind. What if this friendly encounter could merge seamlessly with the conversation she needed to have with her family? Who knows, Jenna added, maybe this is the beginning of something big for you. You have to let your family in, they might surprise you. The intertwining of Jenna's support with this stranger's encouragement created an electric atmosphere around her. All she needed to do was cross the threshold into her family's unknown embrace. With a blend of excitement and apprehension, Sarah realized she was standing at a pivotal junction, compelled to explore how far these connections could go. Did she possess the courage to propel herself onto that path, crafting layers of her identity while being bolstered by the support of both past and present? As these thoughts swirled in her mind, Sarah felt the deep pulse of potential echoing in her chest. She could finally see her direction emerging with a clarity that felt undeniable. The time was nearing for her to face her family, armed with not just plans, but a renewed sense of self. Yet as her mind raced with possibilities, an unsettling thought struck: could she simultaneously navigate her evolving identity while maintaining the relationships she cherished? She looked at Jenna, curious of her thoughts, knowing that this was only the tipping point in a much larger journey. The moment of truth was coiling ever closer, and Sarah felt the weight of what lay ahead. Would the mission to empower others help ground her family relationships, or would it fracture her ties in ways she couldn't yet foresee? The next steps loomed before her like a wide-open road, and the decision was hers to make. The air pulsed with potential as Sarah left the cafe, her mind still buzzing with Jenna's supportive energy and the stranger's unexpected challenge. Just beyond the door, the bustling street greeted her, a stark contrast to the inner storm brewing within. Could it really be possible to take this leap? Each step felt deliberate, as if she were rehearsing the journey ahead. The thought of workshops danced through her mind, vibrant and alive. What if they could become a space for transformation not just for others, but for herself? The vision of facilitating workshops was intoxicating. Images of women sharing their stories, challenges, and victories formed in her imagination, reflecting her own introspections. Yet the remnants of hesitation lingered, gnawing at her determination. Did she possess the requisite experience to guide others? She could already hear her parents' voices echoing with doubt. What do you know about running a workshop? How can you turn a passion into something legitimate? The familiar push and pull of her upbringing pressed heavily upon her conscience. Navigating through the mid-afternoon crowds, Sarah felt the weight of her decision taking form. She needed to articulate her vision, and fulfilling that urgent call required more than just conviction. It needed a plan, a framework to transition from thought to tangible action. When she reached home, the familiar contours of her living space stung with nostalgia but also comforted her. She took a deep breath, embracing the silence as she wandered to her desk. Drowning her worries in a flurry of ideas felt part of rediscovering herself. She flipped open her notebook, clasped her pen tightly, and began to write. The page filled with frenzied bullet points, target audience, themes for workshops, potential dates, locations. Each word spiraled with increasing clarity, breathing life into the distant dreams she nursed. A voice toasted to her empowerment whispered insistently in the back of her mind, pushing away lingering doubts. She had a voice to use, and a story to share. Yet, while wild creativity ignited her resolve, self-imposed restrictions remained chained. Questions sprouted: to whom would I direct this? How do I announce it? The thought of facing her family loomed ominously. Was she ready? Did she have it in her to confront them with her professional aspirations? The uncertainty gnawed at her, but looking at her page, she felt more grounded. With enough planning, she could construct an argument, a way to bridge her new ambitions with their traditional views. Perhaps, if she crafted her message carefully, they would come around, just as Jenna asserted. What if she were to invite her parents to the first workshop? Placing her family's expectations at the core of her project transformed the narrative. It became an opportunity not just to bridge communication, but to show them who she truly was now. The narrative shifted. This wasn't about validation, but authenticity. Still, a tangle of fear and excitement accompanied the notion. Was she strong enough to frame this without allowing doubt to eclipse her determination? Could they embrace the path she was preparing to take? The urge to linger in possibility made her anxious, as uncertainty still loomed large. A sudden resolve washed over her. Instead of hiding behind inadequacies, why not transform those fears into a motivation to succeed? It was time to confront the very heart of the matter. She took another breath, a deep one filled with purpose this time. Minutes passed, her pen blurring in a frenzy as outlines formed into coherent thoughts. By the time Sarah stepped away from the desk, dusk started settling in, wrapping the city in a gentle twilight. There was no more hesitation, it was time for action. The moment had come to pick up the phone and arrange a gathering. But just as she picked up her phone, a text notification flashed on the screen from Jenna. "How's your planning going? I'm here if you want to brainstorm more." Suddenly, a jolt of exhilaration coursed through Sarah. She could use this moment as both reassurance and pragmatic support. Why not share her tentative plans, seeking input while solidifying her intentions? Minutes later, she was absorbed in conversation, trading ideas that spurred her to greater heights. Yet as the dialogue unfolded, the chilling reality of her family dynamics edged back. Questions remained unanswered: how to face them? What if her mother viewed this as a whimsical distraction instead of a purpose-driven pursuit? Those unresolved thoughts spiraled in tandem with her excitement, making her pulse quicken. The energy she gathered today was just the beginning. Powerful decisions lay ahead. The horizon blurred with uncertainty, but Sarah was resolute. The next day would be one of unveiling her truth to the most significant people in her life. How would she navigate the expectations of others while remaining steadfast to her newly discovered ambitions? This was her moment to embrace the intersection of risk and authenticity. The path forward was scattered with both opportunity and fear, holding the promise of profound personal growth, yet it also threatened her sense of belonging among the ones she loved most. Tomorrow loomed large, and the outcome was still unwritten. Would she find the courage to rise above her anxieties? Or would she falter at the crucial juncture? The answers remained tantalizingly out of reach. Morning light spilled through the curtain, illuminating Sarah's bedroom in a soft, golden glow. She lay awake, chest tight with anticipation and self-doubt, the events of yesterday replaying in her mind like a well-rehearsed script. Today, she would present an entirely new chapter of her life to her family, or at least, that was the plan. But what if their reaction crushed her burgeoning aspirations before they even had a chance to take flight? Rising from bed, she slipped into a crisp pair of jeans and a favorite sweater, simple choices meant to ground her. The decision to face her parents in her own skin was part of the personal revolution she was embarking upon. Every fiber of her being cried out for a transformation that cast off long-held restraints and fears. Still, the mere thought of the impending conversation sent a wave of nausea rolling through her. In the kitchen, she mechanically poured coffee, each splash echoing the beating of her heart. As the rich aroma filled the air, she placed her hands around the warm mug, inhaling deeply. A mantra began forming: today is about honesty. Today is about me. She could hear Jenna's voice in her head, bolstering her confidence. This wasn't just a conversation, it was a declaration of her identity and purpose. But could she manage to say it without wavering? As she sat at the table, notebook open before her, she thumbed through her bullet points, revisiting the plans she'd so meticulously crafted. Themes, audiences, logistics, every detail was there, yet they felt like a facade. They missed the essence of the courage she needed to gather. Maybe I should start with my vision, she said to herself, the sound of her voice grounding her thoughts. But the rush of doubt quickly followed. And then what? When they shrug or laugh, how do I counter that? The whisper of insecurity threatened to throttle her resolve. Shaking her head, she focused again on the goal: to share her journey towards authenticity, to invite her family into her world, rather than just announce her intentions. It was an opportunity to express the hope that had ignited within her, something that had been smoldering beneath the surface for far too long. Just as she took another sip of coffee, her phone buzzed again, interrupting her spiraling thoughts. It was a reminder for the meeting, her lunch with her parents. She could almost feel the tension in her jaw tighten at the reminder that this was inevitable. The time always reveals the truth, she thought, and in that moment, a decision crystallized. She couldn't concern herself with their potential reactions, her responsibility lay in standing firm in her vision, regardless of how they received it. The comfort of past approval could no longer dictate her choices. By the time she slid into the passenger seat of the car for the drive to the restaurant, her mind was filled with strategic narratives. How to articulate her passion, her newfound clarity. Practicing soft openings and firm conclusions in her head offered minor comfort. This was her moment, her turn to not only demand space but also to cultivate understanding. Arriving at the bustling cafe, she spotted her parents' familiar figures through the glass facade. Each step towards them felt infused with a mix of dread and exhilaration. As their eyes fell on her, their expressions morphed from indifference to cautious curiosity. "Hey, how's everything?" her father greeted, tucking his napkin by the plate. The small talk felt like a heavy chain, each exchange weighing down on her spirit, but she noticed the sunlight streaming in an unyielding reminder of warmth and opportunity. "Actually, I'd like to talk about something important," she said, her voice calmer than she felt. Their surprise was palpable as she took a breath to ground herself before diving in. But just as she began to unravel her dreams, a figure caught her eye across the cafe, a familiar presence that sent her heart racing. A man in a tailored suit was watching her with intense interest, someone she hadn't seen in years. What was he doing here, and, more importantly, what implications did his presence hold for her story today? Suddenly, the narrative shifted. She wasn't just unveiling her dreams, she was on the brink of a revelation that could shatter everything she thought she knew about the direction her life was headed. The tension crackled in the air, interweaving the threads of her personal journey with the unexpected. Would this encounter derail her hard-earned intentions, or would it unlock new doors? The answers hung precariously in the balance, promising everything and nothing all at once. The man across the cafe remained anchored to her attention, an unsettling distraction. As she stood on the precipice of her self-declaration, the familiarity of his gaze felt like a weight pressing against her resolve. It wasn't just the sight of him, it was the embodiment of her past, a time framed in uncertainties that had led to her current moment. "Sarah?" Her mother's voice cut through the escalating tension. She blinked, pulling her focus back to the table. Yes, I'm sorry," she stammered, shifting awkwardly in her seat. "I was just," but words slipped away, devoured by an overwhelming sense of urgency. What did his presence mean? Was he here to witness her transformation or to remind her of who she used to be? Diving in with renewed determination, she steered the conversation back to her vision. "I want to explore a new direction in my life," she said, the words firing from her lips before her mind evaluated them. "I'm planning to pursue a career in sustainable design." The formulation of her ambitions, coming alive now, held weight. Her father's brow furrowed, the pulpy echo of skepticism tingling in the air. "And what does that mean exactly?" he asked, eyes narrowing. Their questions cascaded around her. Each one was a challenge, punctuating the courage she was trying to maintain. But in those moments, the man in the tailored suit didn't fade from her line of sight. A part of her wanted to seek answers. Why was he here and what did he know? As voices clashed at the table, a moment of clarity washed over her. The encounter with him wasn't merely an obstruction, it was an opportunity to confront her unspoken fears. If she focused on him, she could sidestep the escalating doubts and assert her desires. "Look, I know this might seem out of nowhere," she pressed on, fixing her gaze on her parents, "but I can't wait any longer for approval. This is about my happiness." The need to break from the patterns of dependence was surging within her. With each tentative sentence, she peeled back layers of restrained dreams, revealing the vibrant tapestry of what could be. Yet the figure across the room stood like an immovable shadow, evoking a sense of nostalgia she wouldn't allow herself to entertain. Sarah's heart raced as she stood firm. For a long time, I've been absorbing everyone else's vision for my life, friends, family, partners. But I'm finally at a point where I need to prioritize what I feel is right for me. A buzz hung over the table. So, this is all about you now? Her mother's sharpness cut into the air like winter frost, turning warm hope into chill. Not just about me, she clarified, wavering only for an instant. It's about creating something that matters. I believe design can impact lives. I want my voice to be a part of that. Just as she sensed a wavering in her parents' defensiveness, the suited man crossed the cafe, threading his way through the crowd, his strides purposeful. She could feel her pulse quicken, the weight of his scrutinizing gaze amplifying her anxiety. "Excuse me for a moment," she said, standing abruptly before she even wrapped her mind around the decision. Turning towards him, her emotions flopped like a fish out of water. "Sarah," he greeted, a smirk of recognition playing across his features. All those years ago, they had shared ambitions and dreams that eventually diverged into silence. "I didn't expect to see you here." That familiar spark ignited within her, alongside questions that brewed in the pit of her stomach. Had he come to lecture her or inspire? Did he view her as someone caught in limbo, or did he see the potential glowing brightly within her? "Why are you here? I mean, today?" The inquiry burst from her lips before caution could still it. "I came to meet someone, but it appears I've stumbled upon something far more intriguing," he replied, his confidence palpable. In an instant, the world outside her family's expectations and the burdens of a predictable future evaporated. If her past was truly connected to this moment, how could it guide her ambition rather than hinder it? As they exchanged glances, the lines of her future blurred further. Would he help bolt her deeper into her vision, or would he serve as yet another reminder of the constraints she was striving to escape? Her thoughts danced between these conflicting realities, leading her closer to the conclusion. Perhaps her journey toward authenticity began right here, with this unexpected reunion. Would she allow it to rewrite her narrative or reclaim her voice amidst the noise? Awash in uncertainty, her grip on her goals felt precarious, but the prospect of renewal was ripe, as were the stakes. What awaited her could either be a catalyst for newfound ambitions or another layer of complication. With her past intersecting her present, one question lingered in the air, poised for resolution: what threads would she choose to weave into the tapestry of her future? As the tension in the cafe thickened and her heart raced, Sarah stood conflicted between two worlds. The warmth of her parents at the table beckoned her desperately, while the familiar figure from her past sent waves of nostalgia crashing through her. But this time, she had to choose. She couldn't linger in the shadows of others' expectations. Taking a deep breath, she turned back to her parents. "I know this is sudden, but I'm embarking on a new journey, one that I truly believe in." Each word was weighed with careful thought, a declaration of her resolute transformation. The urgency hung in the air, urging her forward. "To explore sustainable design, to empower others through my work, this isn't just a whim. It's a culmination of the woman I've grown into through heartache and rediscovery." She locked eyes with her father, seeking understanding amid skepticism. "And I want your support as I navigate this path." Her mother's brows knitted together, yet the hint of curiosity fluttered across her expression. "But Sarah, have you thought this through? What if it doesn't work? What will that mean for you? For us?" Each question was a challenge to the foundation she sought to build. But this time, Sarah was prepared. "I have thought it through," she affirmed, her voice steady. "This is about overcoming my past, stepping forward into a future where I define my identity not just as a wife and mother, but as someone capable of inciting change." With each phrase, she felt a surge of empowerment, peeling back decades of roles and rediscovering her voice. Just then, Miles joined them, serene and composed. He gracefully addressed Sarah's parents. What she's pursuing isn't merely a shift, it's a mission. More voices, diverse visions, this is what will drive authenticity into her work. Sarah felt buoyed by his presence, he embodied the support she sought and needed. In their gaze, her parents exchanged a glance, a flicker of uncertainty, then intrigue. "Mom, Dad," Sarah pressed. "Our family has always valued hard work and dedication. I'm ready to dedicate myself to an impactful strategy. A legacy that could make a difference, resonating beyond just our family." Her voice gained momentum like a tide rushing over barren sand, each word building on the last. "It's time I embrace who I am, not the version molded by the expectations of those around me." And then, glancing back at the suited man, the echoes of their shared past mingled with the present reality. "Some of my drive is influenced by people like him, friends who dared to hold on to aspirations rather than let them slip away. It's not about rejecting my past, it's about integrating it." The gravity of her declaration crystallized, bringing an unexpected clarity. The notion that she could honor her journey while constructing a new one became undeniably intoxicating. "Maybe it's time we support you in this," her father finally said, the weight of acceptance threading his voice. "We may not understand every step along the way, but if you believe this is what you need, yes," cried Sarah, the joy cascading over her as relief shattered years of uncertainty. She felt a powerful shift in the air, abandoning the fear that had previously muted her voice. The suited man shifted beside her, a silent ally rather than an obstructive presence. He had ventured into their conversation and added life to what was becoming the resolution of a new beginning. "Let us explore this," her mother added, a soft willingness appearing, slowly transforming the skepticism into support, a genuine desire to understand her journey. "So, how about we reconvene next week?" Miles suggested, seamlessly guiding the conversation forward. Sarah could outline her workshop plans. From the corner of her eye, she saw her mother's pride brew, her father nodding in affirmation. Sarah smiled, recognizing the unmistakable transition not just in her own life, but in the dynamic of her family. Every moment felt surreal, an affirmation of her strength and fight to reclaim her narrative. As the cafe buzzed around them, she tuned out the noise, focusing instead on the crucial affirmation that blossomed within her. Each decision threaded more power through her resolve. This was her story, intricate, complex, but undeniably hers. In that monumental moment of understanding and acceptance, Sarah realized she had embraced the possibility of building a future while honoring her past. She had stepped across the threshold into a new identity, one filled with purpose and authenticity. The realization unfurled within her, solidifying an inner confidence she had nearly forgotten. After a gentle exchange with Miles, familiar laughter drifted amongst her parents. Their acceptance warmed her heart, igniting another wave of emotional release. They were meeting her dreams with enough courage of their own to spur her forward, an invitation to thrive rather than merely survive. The barriers she feared might exist had crumbled. In the days that followed, conversations shifted at home, fueled by optimism, ideas thriving rather than flickering out. As for the man in the suit, Sarah turned and offered a smile. Friendships rekindled, ambitions aligned, and all burdens redefined. Nothing could hold her back now. She was authoring her story, and the subsequent chapters gleamed with the promise of impact, intuition, and transformation. Sarah was finally free, and there was no turning back, only a path onward, filled with newly discovered energy and empowered purpose. Now, it's your moment to share the journey of overcoming personal obstacles. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, it makes a difference. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to share. Only true fans of personal overcoming stories understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.